Hey guys, Kyodai Kino here. In the last couple videos we talked about the first two seasons of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, as well as the Japanese shows that they were adapted from. And today, next up, we've got Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie, released between seasons 2 and 3, and basically a big budget theatrical adaptation of everything wrong with the series at the end of season 2. The characters on the TV show had gotten a little bit stale and lost some of their distinctive qualities, but in the movie they're basically interchangeable. David Yost basically sleepwalks through the whole thing, taking advantage of the different crew to not have to bother with Billy's glasses. The Rangers get chunkier, uglier new costumes. Lord Zed and Goldar's costumes look even cheaper than they do on the show. And while the bigger budget allows for better production value in some respects, bigger sets, more locations, that sort of thing, it's also used on some of the worst, most unfinished looking CGI I've ever seen in my life. Apparently the crew working on the movie was going to try and do miniature effects with men in suits like Toei did, but their footage wasn't convincing enough. It's hard to imagine it being worse than what we got in the end. Since the movie has no Sentai source material, and it's honestly not very good, I'm just going to leave it at that and move on to Season 3 and its source material, Ninja Sentai Kakuranger. Now, this is where I'm going to have to go off script a little bit, because at the time I wrote this, I'd only seen about 3 episodes of Kakuranger, and I didn't really like it. But I've since watched about half of the show so far, and, it's grown on me. It starts out really goofy, really campy, and really weird. The Kakurangers are fighting the yokai, creatures from Japanese mythology, and there's a lot of it that feels like kind of Bill and Ted-ish goofy 90s comedy, and a lighter, goofier, and more comedic tone that includes things like Batman-esque on-screen sound effects. It's an odd show, but honestly, it's kind of worth it even just for the Black Ranger, played by Kane Kosugi from Godzilla Final Wars, throwing in even more gratuitous English as an American ninja. And I'm just gonna go ahead and play his introduction here because it's great.
American Ninja.
Like I said, Season 2 of Power Rangers kind of ignored the Chinese mythological theme of Dairanger in favor of grafting some generic Western fantasy creatures onto the dinosaur theme from Zyuranger. And it kind of makes sense. It was the mid-90s, Jurassic Park was huge, and, that might have even been why they chose to adapt Zyuranger instead of the show Saban originally wanted to adapt Bioman, or possibly Jetman, according to some sources, was also considered. But again, the dinosaur theme was fashionable, so it stayed alongside the new elements, leading to some rather awkward lines like these.
Mastodon Lion Thunderzord Power!
Pterodactyl Firebird Thunderzord Power!
Triceratops Unicorn Thunderzord Power!
Saber-tooth Tiger Griffin Thunderzord Power!
Tyrannosaurus Red Dragon Thunderzord Power!
Kakuranger, though, presented a perhaps even trendier theme in the form of ninjas, and Season 3 leans into that hard. But before they get to that, as if there was a rule that no season of Power Rangers could have both a strong opening and ending, there's instead a 3-part backdoor pilot for Saban's adaptation of Kamen Rider Black RX, titled Masked Rider. With that out of the way, the show moves on to another multi-parter setting up the rest of the season. Rita and Zed are joined by Rito Revolto, who's Rita's brother, who's adapted from a recurring villain in Kakuranger. He's kind of an incompetent, buffoonish character and fully brings the villains' camp back to the kind of goofy bickering you saw in Season 1. The trio of villains manage to destroy the Thunderzords, leading Zordon to send the Rangers on a quest to find Ninjor, who supposedly created the artifacts that contained the Rangers' original powers. Meanwhile, the show introduces the Tengas, who are the villains' new foot soldiers for the series. Interestingly enough, even though they're based on the Tengu from Japanese mythology, they're not actually based on anything from Kakuranger. The Rangers find Ninjor, who's based on Ninja Man from Kakuranger, and he gives them new ninja-based powers and new Zords. The new powers include a new morph form referred to as Ninja Ranger mode, which, oddly enough, isn't taken from Kakuranger. despite Kakuranger having a pretty obvious ninja theme which would be extremely marketable and might make up for getting rid of the old costumes. But apparently they just weren't ready to give up on the Zyuranger suits just yet, which still precluded them from falling back on more Super Sentai footage. Season 3 still retains most of Season 2's other problems. The characters are still pretty bland, and Billy especially looks bored and miserable throughout the whole thing. But it actually solves some of those problems as well. First off, the new ninja theme and complete reset of the Rangers' powers does away with the awkward double theme of Season 2, with the only artifact of Zyuranger being the still dinosaur-themed costumes. In Season 3, the Rangers no longer call the name of their dinosaurs to transform,
Tiger Zord! Mastodon!
Pterodactyl!
Triceratops!
Saber-tooth tiger!
Tyrannosaurus!
but instead go for the simpler,
White Ranger power! Black Ranger power!
Pink Ranger power!
Blue Ranger power!
Yellow Ranger power!
Red Ranger power!
The second area of improvement is brevity. The declining ratings of the show, combined with the increased challenges of adapting each new Sentai series into the existing Power Rangers series, led to Season 3 being considerably shorter than Season 2, even including the Alien Rangers miniseries. There are several standard Monster of the Week episodes after the introduction of the new powers, but after that it moves briskly from plot point to plot point, multi-parter to multi-parter, gimmick to gimmick, without really dragging in between the way Season 2 did. The Ninja Zords are swapped out for the Shogun Zords, Kimberly leaves and is replaced, Rita's father Master Vile shows up, and the season ends on a cliffhanger setting up the Alien Rangers miniseries, all in pretty rapid succession. The third point of improvement is increased foresight. With the showrunners more aware that the current adaptation scheme couldn't really hold for too much longer, and no sudden surprises like the departure of St. John, Trang, and Jones, the writers were able to approach major changes in the show with a little more advanced notice and with a little bit better setup. For instance, Kimberly's actress Amy Jo Johnson communicated in advance that she wanted to leave the show to pursue other opportunities, which led to her replacement being introduced while she was still on the show, and having somewhat of a Tommy-esque arc of being controlled by Rita and then brought over to the Power Rangers side before she finally took Kimberly's place. Kimberly is given a dedicated three-parter in which she makes the difficult decision to leave the Rangers to pursue a career as a gymnast, starting with the Pan Global Games, passing her powers on to her replacement, Catherine, from Australia. That's about her only defining trait, to be honest. It's really kind of a bittersweet thing because Amy really gets to shine in these episodes, and then her replacement is every bit as bland as the other replacements from Season 2. Another instance of foresight on the part of the writers is the introduction of the Zeo Crystal, which starts out as a powerful MacGuffin that the Rangers have to recover from the villains, and eventually provides the resolution to the Alien Rangers miniseries and sets up the next season, Power Rangers Zeo. The Alien Rangers miniseries is odd. So, like I said, at the end of Season 3 proper, the Rangers are turned into kids. Billy manages to age himself back to normal, but the rest of the Rangers have to go on separate quests through time and space to find their respective pieces of the Zeo Crystal. In their place, Zordon summons the Ranger team from the planet Aquitar, who are portrayed through the actual Ranger suits from Ninja Sentai Kakuranger. Weirdly enough, the Alien Rangers don't really have a ninja theme, despite the fact that their costumes very obviously do. Eventually, the Rangers all return with their pieces of the Zeo Crystal, except for Aisha, who sends back a girl from the village in Africa she stumbled onto during her quest. Apparently, Aisha's actress wanted to move on to other roles, so in her place we get Tanya, who carries on into the next season. With the Zeo Crystal reassembled, the Rangers are all aged back to normal, but a bomb planted by Rito and Goldar destroys the command center, ending the miniseries on a cliffhanger that leads into Season 4, Power Rangers Zeo. Alien Rangers is a really mixed bag. Like I said, the Aquitar Rangers themselves are portrayed using the suits from Ninja Sentai Kakuranger, which means that we do get some more Sentai fight scenes. However, unmorphed, they're portrayed as rubber forehead aliens with obnoxiously watery filtered voices.
I'm Delphine, leader of the Alien Rangers.
We also live by the sacred code of the Rangers, to destroy evil and protect all that is good.
And on top of the filter, they're pretty badly acted, not unlike the kid versions of the Rangers. There's also the Ambiguous Timeline. The miniseries takes place over 10 episodes, and it's not clear if that's a time period of days or weeks or what. It wouldn't really matter, except that the last 5 whole episodes have Rito and Goldar stumbling around the command center basement looking for a place to plant the bomb. And apparently that whole time, they're undetected. All in all, though, Season 3 is still pretty weak. The characters are still pretty boring, and one of the only likable ones left is replaced partway through, and most of the substance in the storytelling is replaced by marketing-driven gimmicks. For instance, there's the shark cycles, which show up for about 2 episodes before being forgotten, and the metallic armor, which was introduced to sell off old stock of metallic finished Power Ranger toys from the movie, and that sticks around for a roughly similar amount of time. Its biggest saving grace is probably Bulk and Skull. Bulk and Skull were the comic relief in seasons 1 and 2, initially being characterized as goofy, incompetent bullies, and eventually kind of class clowns. They had a thing throughout Season 2 where they were trying to figure out the Power Rangers' secret identities, which they give up on at the beginning of Season 3. Season 2 did hint at some hidden depths, though. During Rocky, Adam, and Aisha's introduction, there was a bit involving them having to take care of a baby until its parents could be located, and later on they actually saved the Power Rangers by facing a monster themselves. In Season 3, after abandoning the search for the Rangers' secret identities, they end up joining the Angel Grove Junior Police Patrol with the initial intention of impressing girls. Under the strict guidance of Lieutenant Stone, though, they actually develop somewhat, taking more of an interest in the safety of their community and the people in it. Questionable realism with regard to the outcome of high school bullies joining the police force aside, it's honestly the high point of the season. It's the most deliberate and well-executed character development so far, turning the comic relief into one of the best parts of the show. So all in all, between Season 3 Power Rangers and Ninja Sentai Kakuranger, I still do have to give it to Kakuranger. The characters aren't that much more varied and unique, but all in all it's more entertaining, I'd have to say. And it does seem to be taking a bit more of a serious turn at this point, with the Kakurangers embarking on individual quests for hidden scrolls to gain power over a new set of mecha, which are actually the Ninja Zords and Power Rangers. They kind of switched up the order of the mecha. And honestly, all in all, I'd really have to say that Super Sentai is the better series from what I've seen so far. Other than the shows I've discussed in these videos, I've also seen Jetman at this point. I'm about halfway through Gokaiger, and those are both amazing. Whereas I've seen all of Zeo, and I'm a little bit into Turbo, and they're alright, but they're still not really on the same level. I do intend to keep watching both though, and I'm trying to kind of catch up in Sentai to the point where I am in Power Rangers, so I'm taking Turbo sort of slow and trying to get straight through Kakuranger and O-Ranger and Car Ranger, hopefully to the point where I can pick up Denji Sentai Mega Ranger before going into Power Rangers in Space. So I am going to be continuing with both, but overall I'm definitely more interested in Sentai. The storytelling's better, and honestly the difference in standards between the US and Japan for what you can say and do in kids media, it makes a pretty big difference. The stories are more engaging, the stakes are more serious and involving in Sentai. It's really just no contest. But I do find Power Rangers really interesting as an adaptation of a Japanese work that does more than simply translate it. That's kind of why I find localizations like Godzilla 1985 and Godzilla King of the Monsters so interesting, aside from Raymond Burr being fantastic. I also just prefer Sentai's tone. It's got some really goofy stuff in it, but it also takes itself seriously when it needs to and delivers a good story. Whereas Power Rangers kind of seems embarrassed by itself, but still desperate to sell itself as cool. The thing is, the humor is goofier and probably even more juvenile, and so it feels like it has to compensate by being as extreme as possible, with a hard rock soundtrack and a lot of dated slang. It's a little weird. It just feels unsure of itself by comparison. Sentai, I think, gives kids more credit for being able to handle, moral nuances and serious, emotionally weighty drama than Power Rangers does. And it's also just less afraid to go there with a straight face than Power Rangers is. And so that makes watching it as someone considerably older than the target demographic a lot easier, as opposed to something that's intentionally lighter and goofier, but then also feels the need to double down on being really cool to try and compensate for it. So all in all, between the 3 seasons of Mighty Morphin and their source series from Super Sentai, so far we've got 1 tie and 2 for Sentai. It's really not that much of a contest. I'm definitely going to go through both, I think, in parallel, kind of chronologically. So I might put Gokaiger on the back burner a little bit, though I'm probably still going to branch out a little bit in either direction from what I've seen. For instance, I might check out Battle Fever J, which looks like a hell of a lot of fun, and I'm probably going to continue Gokaiger. It's just a great show. And regardless of, all the shortcomings of Power Rangers, I am enjoying seeing how each season of Sentai is adapted for the US market. It's a really interesting thing to see, and it'll probably be, even easier as the seasons get shorter and shorter. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how both series evolve, honestly. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you've enjoyed these 3 videos. As usual, my Patreon, my social media, all that's down below in the description. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, so go ahead and follow me there for updates on upcoming videos and that sort of thing. And I'll see you guys around next time. Thanks for watching.